What's up guys, Jack here, and welcome back to the Jack of All Trades channel. Every year, the tech ecosystem is just finding a new way to rent your digital life back to you. Your photos that live on Google Cloud require a subscription to store them, your movies and TV shows are scattered across 5 different platforms and you own none of them, and all of your AI conversations are going to a server in God knows where and being used to train the next generation of super robots. Now, I was sick of paying this monthly tax to things that I felt like I should just own, or at least have some level of control over, and this is where I found out about home labbing. So over the last year, I've learned a ton about home labbing. My first server was running Proxmox. I had an LXC container for Jellyfin, a Minecraft server, and a couple other services like storing photos on my NAS, as well as all of my YouTube files like this one you guys are watching today. I also broke a bunch of stuff. I had plenty of problems setting up things like private VPN tunnels to access my server remotely, and you guys can check out that video about my first home server right here. I built it in this mini ITX Fractal Terra, which was super clean and compact, but eventually I just outgrew this system. This is actually just a gaming PC now. I stuck a 9070 XT in here. Maybe I'll make a video about what I'm using this for in the future. But all in all, that first home server was a massive learning experience for me. I was hosting my own media, I was hosting my own Google Drive, I was hosting my own photos, and when AI started to become a more integral part of my life, I started to want to host my own models. I certainly had the hardware for it laying around, and I imagine a lot of you guys might be in a similar situation, where either you just have an old gaming PC or an old laptop, and you actually have the opportunity to do something really cool, take back control over some parts of your digital life, and maybe even cancel a few subscriptions in the process. But space ultimately was my limiting factor in my last build, and in the Fractal Terra, I either had to choose graphics card or hard drives. And with my desire to run AI models, I really couldn't choose both, so I decided to upgrade to the Johnsbow N5 as the chassis to house my endgame server build. So today I'm gonna walk you guys through my new and improved server build, some of the services I'm running. I went ahead and switched over to Unraid from Proxmox as well, so I'll give you guys a quick walkthrough of that. And then ultimately, I'll just close with some thoughts about self-hosting in general, things like owning your own compute, and why I think that's becoming more and more valuable as AI gets more powerful. So with that, let's take a look at the server build. All right, so getting into the build portion of the video, for my motherboard, I chose this ASRock B550M Pro, and the main reason for this motherboard is it was cheap. Again, you don't need to have like some Asus Pro gaming motherboard for this type of situation. Something that supports a PCIe slot, M.2 slot, maybe a couple quality of life features, like it has a couple USB-C ports on it. But for the most part, just get something that's compatible. I picked up this motherboard for like 80 bucks, and it's gonna be perfect for our build today. Now for the CPU, I went with the AMD Ryzen 5 5600T. Again, use what you have when it comes to parts, but the main benefit of this processor is that it has 6 cores and 12 threads. And with more cores and threads on your processor, you're gonna be able to run more concurrent processes at one time. And this processor has a good balance of multi-threaded performance while being relatively cheap. Again, I picked this up on Facebook Marketplace for like 90 bucks. And then I'm literally just using the stock cooler. You don't need some crazy, liquid cooling setup here. I'm just throwing the stock cooler on this thing, and it's gonna be more than fine for our purposes. Now, next up is probably one of the more expensive parts if you guys don't have this laying around, and that's our RAM. And so with all these AI inflated prices on RAM, it's gonna be tough to come by like a decent kit. I happen to have this 4x4 kit of DDR4 just laying around from an old build. It's 16 gigs of DDR4. It's not gonna be blazing fast or anything, but it's certainly gonna do the job. And for AI purposes, I'm not planning to run anything super heavy on this. Again, I have my like main build with the 5090 in it for something that's, heavy duty, but you're gonna wanna target at least 16 gigs of RAM. And then lastly, for the M.2, again, this is another part that's like super inflated right now in terms of price. If you guys watch my ROG Ally video, I cannibalized a few parts out of there. So I had this small form factor 2230 M.2 drive laying around, and I was curious to know if this would fit in the full size slot. And sure enough, it did. I kind of just clicked it in there. It didn't screw down or anything, just due to the physical size of it, but I just put the heatsink back on top, screwed it down, and it's been working fine for a few months. So I'm just gonna call this good. It saved me probably 100 bucks here rather than buying a new drive. And then for the case today, again, we're using the Johnsbow N5. This is pretty end game in terms of home server build cases. I think this runs about 200 or 250 bucks, but if you're not willing to go for a full server rack, this is about as end game as you can get. Again, 12 hot swappable drive bays. So while you might have like a graphics card, like just generating a bunch of heat in the top chamber, your drive bay will stay cool as it's completely isolated and it has its own separate cooling down there. I also love this wood paneling on the front, matches really nicely with my desk, and it has a kind of similar aesthetic to the Fractal Terra. So I opened up the top half of the chamber on this thing, and you can just see how much space you have in here. Again, this is full ATX compatible. You might have a little trouble with some bigger graphics cards, but for the most part, I think your clearances will be fine. For the PSU, I went ahead and used this old Corsair CX650M. I just had this laying around again from another like PC build from a long time ago. I'm not running some insane hardware in this thing, so this will be more than fine for our purposes. I recently got this little drawer organizer for Home Depot to store all of my computer parts. I'd highly recommend organizing some of your tech like this if you just have a bunch of like random stuff like I do laying around, but it makes it super easy to find that random 10-year-old power supply cable when I need it. And then for my GPU, I'm using a 2070. Again, I had this laying around from an old PC build. It was literally just collecting dust, and it'll be more than enough to run some smaller size AI models with some decent context windows. Again, use what you have. You might not need a graphics card for your home server if you're not planning to do anything like cloud gaming or self-hosted AI, but that was a big appeal of this case for me, is that it could fit a full-size GPU. Okay, now I'm handling some of the cooling, and again, I'm just using fans I had laying around. I have some pretty obnoxious looking RGB Cooler Master fans on the front, which look kind of silly in a home server, but again, I'm just using what I have. You can obviously go for like, you know, super high-end Noctua fans if you want this thing to be super quiet, but just getting this thing up and running is my main priority. All right, so now we have everything wired up. I'm gonna go ahead and try and boot into the BIOS here. PC turned on first try. I think that's 3 PCs I've built in a row that have turned on first try, so definitely a little bit proud of that. And sure enough, we get into the ASRock BIOS. We can start verifying our parts. Like you can see all of our memory listed out there, as well as our processor. You can mess around with some of the fan settings. I noticed that the fans in the bottom half of the chassis, like where the drives are, were just like running at max speed and making a ton of noise. So I came into here to turn those down a little bit, as they were pretty obnoxious. And then for my boot device, I'm gonna be selecting this USB drive. Again, I'm booting into Unraid today. It's not gonna be a full setup guide or anything, but I'm gonna give you guys a quick tour of like how the software works, why it's so beneficial to use Unraid, especially if you're a first-time home labber, and just some tips and tricks I learned about configuring it. So after you boot into that Unraid OS, you should see a terminal window that's just scrolling, and then all the way at the bottom, it'll finally show you an IP address you connect to. Log on to your main computer, go to that IP address, and you should be greeted with a login screen where you can configure your root login. Okay, so I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about Unraid and some of the Docker containers I have running on my home server. If you guys have only used like Windows or Linux before, this might look a little different to you than a normal operating system. This actually isn't running on this machine. I'm just logged into my server via this local IP at the top here, and you do all your configuration from a separate machine. So you actually don't need a monitor or anything plugged into your server. This is all going to be managed remotely from your secondary computer. Now, Unraid is what's known as a hypervisor, which allows you to create virtual containers on your system. Now, while Proxmox allows you to, individually spec out the size of your containers and adjust them, Unraid really simplifies that by using Docker containers. So you can see my list of Docker containers right here at the top. I have 8 of them running right now. You can click over to this apps tab at the top, and then inside of here, there's all sorts of Docker containers that are just ready to go. So if I'm going to type in a search here for image, this is a very popular like self-hosted photo library. So I can just go here, come to image, click install, hit OK, select the default branch. So on here, you can set all sorts of different configuration options. I actually have this port occupied by a different service, so I'm going to make it 8082. So after you set all your required fields, you can just come down here, hit apply, and just like that, it'll automatically go in, provision everything for you, and install the Docker container. You can be up and running with this service in like less than 5 minutes. Just flipping back to our dashboard here, a couple other cool things I want to point out. You just have a nice overview here of all of your hardware. So you can see my array I have set up for all of my storage. I just have one 10 terabyte disk in here. This cache is my NVMe that we installed. So that's running things like the OS itself and anything that I want to run like speedily. So for example, when I download a movie, I have it set up in such a way where it'll write onto the NVMe. So it'll write super fast. And then it runs a batch job overnight to move it from the fast drive here into the cold storage to be accessed by my Jellyfin server. You also can see the load you're putting on your actual components here. So you can see that like some of these cores are spiking up as they're running different processes. I think that this GPU one is really nice to look at as well, especially when you're running things like Ollama to run local AI models and Open Web UI. You can easily come down here and check how hard your hardware is being pushed. So that's kind of the overview of the dashboard here. On this main screen, this is where you configure your different storage arrays and boot partitions. Something that's kind of weird about Unraid is that when you install it, the OS itself lives on a USB drive. So something you can do is create a partition on your boot drive and then move it from the USB onto that partition. I wanted my USB drive back and didn't want to leave it stuck in the machine the whole time, so I ended up doing this. There's plenty of tutorials online and I'll link one below. And over here on settings, I'm still learning about this menu a lot, but you can configure all sorts of things like GPU allocations, automate jobs like I was talking about with moving those movies over in the middle of the night. You can set up individual VMs, specify your boot parameters, and a bunch of other stuff from here. Another important thing is VPN manager, so you can actually set up your VPN tunnel to access your server remotely. So when you're off network, you can still stream movies on your Jellyfin server onto your phone or another TV that's off of your home network. So lastly, I just wanted to talk about some of the services I'm running. First off, for TV and movies, I have Jellyfin running, and I have Radar, Prowlar, and Sonar all running underneath my Jellyfin server. You're welcome to research what these do exactly on Reddit, but overall, this is a pretty standard setup for a media server. Second, I have my local AI setup, which is Ollama and Open Web UI. Ollama is for downloading and installing and running the models. So you just open this from the terminal. You just type in Ollama, install, and then your model name. That'll make it accessible via Open Web UI. Then you can come in here, sign into Open Web UI, connect it to your Ollama, and just like that, you're hosting your own AI models. And then lastly, I have a Cloudflare D tunnel running hosting. This is just for accessing my home server when I'm away from my home network. Now, networking isn't something I'm super strong at, so I had a friend help me set this up, but overall, a relatively straightforward process. The fact that all of the setup in Unraid is handled by Docker containers allows you to spin up and take down these services extremely fast. If you mess something up, it's really easy to modify it or just delete it and repull the container. Now, this is a paid OS. I think it's about $80 for a lifetime Unraid subscription, but I would definitely say it's worth it. And again, if you guys are building a home lab for the first time, I would highly recommend trying out Unraid rather than Proxmox. While you don't have quite as much control over individual features, I do think for a basic setup like this, where you're just running a couple services, right? Your image storage, your media server, and some local AI, Unraid can certainly handle those tasks. And I think you have a nice overview of your server as a whole, and it's just a lot cleaner in my opinion to manage. If you guys are interested in Proxmox or seeing how that works, you can check out the aforementioned home server video from last year. And again, I'll leave a link to that video as well in the description. So that's pretty much it for Unraid. I know this wasn't a tutorial or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to give you guys a bit of a harbor cruise, show you some of the services I'm running, and explain why I think that Unraid makes a great OS for a first-time server builder. So with that, let's head back to the desk. And I just wanted to share some closing thoughts about this home server build. So that was my updated home server build in the Johnsbow N5. And just a couple of things to reiterate. Number one, which I think is most important, just use what you have. Whether it's an old laptop, a dusty gaming PC in a closet, or even just a Raspberry Pi in a little case, that's enough to get a basic self-hosted setup off the ground and running. And I think you'd be surprised how much you can configure on some not so powerful hardware that actually ends up saving you money in the long run. Second, I just want to call out the ease of use of Unraid as an OS for your home lab. I think it has a much lower barrier to entry in terms of getting off the ground and running. And while you might not have like that granular level of like specifically allocating resources or exact networking specs that you want to lay out on Proxmox, I guarantee any first-time home labber will have an easier time using Unraid. And for my use cases at least, I've yet to find any limitations that have made me want to switch back to Proxmox. Now, finally, just some thoughts about like self-hosting in general and the landscape that we're in. I think the sooner you can start on your home lab and get your server up and running, the better. As AI demand drives all the hardware prices up, you don't want to keep getting priced out of entering and then getting more and more tied into those subscriptions that I was talking about earlier in the video. I know RAM is expensive right now. I know storage is expensive right now. But even if you were to buy some of your parts at the exact peak of pricing, if you were actually able to self-host some of these services, you would end up saving yourself money. You'd have much more control over your online privacy, and you'd be able to tailor it to what your use case is, right? Maybe you don't want Amazon like tracking all of your Ring data from your doorbell. Maybe you don't want Google to have access to every single one of your family photos. So I'm not necessarily trying to fearmonger, but these are just some of the considerations you might think about. And ultimately, I decided that the upfront cost and learning curve was worth it for me to gain back some of that control over my digital footprint online. So I do think there is a home lab solution out there for everyone, even if you're not super technical or you're not a big PC tinkerer like I am. I think there's enough entry points into this ecosystem where you can get your first server off the ground with very minimal effort. If you guys have any questions, comments, or troubleshooting that you need me to help with, feel free to leave it down in the comments below and I'll be happy to respond. So that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.